Hello, welcome to another edition of Issues with JIDE. Here we talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, Peter Obi's deputy, Datti Ahmed, urges President Muhammad Buhari, CJN to boycott Tinubu's inauguration, says it's illegal. And later on the show, Ekweremadu sentenced to 10 years in UK over organ harvesting. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom from Abuja, the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. It's good to see you again, Bikil.
Good evening, Ibrahim.
Right, so let's get down to the issue the issues for today. First is the vice presidential candidate of Labour Party, Yusuf Datti Ahmed, who is appealing to President Muhammad Buhari and the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Olukayode Ariwoola, to boycott the inauguration ceremony of President-elect Asiwaju Tinubu on May the 29th, 2023. What does this sound like to you, BK?
You know, since the February 25 election was lost by the Labour Party, Peter Obi has been going from TV station to TV station, saying all kinds of things. This time around, he did not say that democracy would die in Nigeria if Tinubu was sworn in. He partly repeated what he said on channels the other day, which is trying to intimidate the judges, trying to frighten the president, that if they allow the inauguration to take place, our lives will be in danger, the military will take over. How he came to the conclusion that the military will take over is the only one who can explain. Because repeatedly, the Nigerian forces have been saying that it is not their business to take over, they have no interest to take over, that they are going to make sure that the inauguration proceeds as planned. This is the way it has been since the year 1999. The inauguration of a president-elect has never suffered any hitch. The inauguration of a president-elect has never been put in abeyance, no matter the way in which the election went. And I am convinced that the 2003 and 2007 presidential elections were nowhere as good as the February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections that we had. Our elections have become better and better. Not like we used to have during the Obasanjo years, when figures were merely written, when dead people, like the founder of the Apostolic Church, Ayo Babalola, voted in our elections. When people like Mike Tyson came to Nigeria and voted as spirits, we no longer have that. The 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections is the fairest that I've seen in all my adult life. And this is, if anybody sees before me, I can prove it, that this election was the fairest, the cleanest we've had. And by saying that, I'm not saying that there were no manipulations. We have not reached that point when we will do an election and there will be no manipulation, no rigging of any sort. There will be some elements of manipulation where agents of political parties will compromise with the leading party in the state. I was listening to the SDP presidential candidate saying that some of their agents connived with the PDP, work for the PDP. And when you have that, even if results were supposed to be disputed, they will simply agree that all was well. That is manipulation. Where the military or the police support a political party and frustrate supporters of some parties from getting involved in the process, it is rigging. Where people are intimidated, whether in the Southeast or anywhere else, and stopped from exercising their franchise, it is still manipulation and rigging by another form. Where politicians simply gave people money to vote for them, as it was rampant during the governorship election, it is still rigging by other forms. So I am saying that we have not reached that point when we will organize election and everything will go on perfectly. There are people who still find a way to tamper with the system. But by and large, the February 25 election clearly, in unmistakable fashion, showed that Nigerians wanted a particular candidate, and the majority of those Nigerians voted for that candidate. That candidate won the election for the first time in our history, because we trade in facts, not fiction, and we do not trade in ignorance, as a lot of our colleagues who are on-reading journalists, who are on-air personality, so-called on-air personality, without any record of journalistic practice. Because what is journalism in the real sense of the word? People have never written a news story in their lives, calling themselves journalists. What they don't talk about are facts. They just come into a studio and open their mouths, just emotions without substance. That is not what we are about. In the history of Nigeria, we have never had a situation in which the ruling party at the center fails to score a majority of votes in the House of Reps. But that happened this year. The opposition coming together, they have more members in the House of Reps than the APC. It has never happened. That should tell you also the level of transparency of that election. In the same election, 7 sitting governors failed to find their way into the Senate. They lost. In the same election, APC lost 12 states. And what I mean is 12 APC governors could not deliver their states to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In that same election, despite the support that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was expecting to get from Nasir El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, Tinubu only won 1 local government in the whole of Kaduna State. And that local government is Birnin-Gwari local government. Remember, Birnin-Gwari was the local government that he visited in the dead of night. He risked his life, visited Birnin-Gwari. So that's the only local government that he won. Out of all the local governments in Kaduna, APC was well beaten in Kaduna State. APC lost all the National Assembly, all the Senate seats, and was well beaten in the House of Reps election. So many things show to me clearly that that election is better than the way some Nigerians who are fixated, who have made up their minds and are not prepared to bend, no matter the superior argument advanced, want to portray that election to be. Now, since 1999, once you have won an election, people will go to court. But going to court will not stop the inauguration. The law is clear that the appeal court, which is the first port of call in the presidential election petitions tribunal, shall do its job for 180 days. That is what the law says. 180 days. and a further 2 months, for the matter to be decided at the Supreme Court level. So what is the argument of those in this rush that, oh, the matter must be decided before inauguration? How are they even sure that if the matter is decided, it will be decided in their favor? Are they God? They are talking like Nigerian pastors who predicted doom. No, this will happen, the other one will happen. And because it didn't happen, some of them are busy abusing people, turning their pupils to places where they can simply insult Nigerians. Clerics, some of the clerics were nobody some years back. Nobody knew them. So the law is clear. It's 180 days. The law has to be changed before you can achieve the hasty decision by the appeal court that you want to see. The law has to be amended. And Nigeria is a vast country. You need time to get all the evidence that you need to defend your case. Now, if this law were amended or the judges simply refuse to give enough time before deciding the matter, some of these same people will come out to say, look, we had not fully presented our case. We had not fully presented the evidence that we had before this matter was decided. Now, what is going back to what Datti was saying? Datti has given the advice, but I'm sure that I will not be listening to, because he's not talking to fools. Datti did not complain when we had such cases in the past. We've had cases in the past that they had to decide even after the president had emerged and the president had been sworn in. So we cannot be in a rush to decide these matters just because you do not like the person who has emerged winner. Datti came third in his polling unit. He didn't even win his polling unit. It's not popular. So what is all the talk about? Oh, they must be decided. President Buhari, please do not go to the inauguration. CJN, do not go to for the inauguration. What is that up to? Who will listen to him? That a president should not hand over to the person who is meant to succeed him? Did Goodluck Jonathan stay away from Buhari's inauguration? Did the former CJN stay away from Buhari's inauguration? Why would Buhari stay away? Buhari has not got any power under our laws to scuttle the inauguration. So the inauguration would happen no matter what Datti feels about it. And Datti has to know what the law says. Yes, Datti owns a university, but he talks sometimes like a legal illiterate. I was reading President Buhari's lawyer in 2003. He said the matter had been decided that even if somebody had a very serious matter prior to being inaugurated, the law says he shall be inaugurated. So look at what the man said. He said, I raised the issue in Buhari versus Obasanjo case in 2003. I said, if you have a serious case against anybody, he should not be sworn in until he defends himself. But the Supreme Court told me that the law says the person declared winner remains in office. So all these things people are talking about cannot change the law, which says the person declared remains in office. The person declared for House shall also remain in office. So all you can do is expedite hearing. If you won the House of Rep seat, you will keep that House of Rep seat until your matter is decided.
Yeah,
If you became a senator, you will keep it until your matter is decided. The
right.
law is clear about that. And the Supreme Court in Buhari versus Obasanjo affirmed that the person declared winner shall remain in office. So Datti should get the right lawyers. Imagine Datti thinking that Abuja, because Tinubu did not get 25% in Abuja, that he was not qualified to be sworn. I've listened to some of his arguments, some of them very, very infantile. So this same Hamba, Buhari's lawyer, said the votes, no vote is superior to the other. Votes generated in Abuja are not superior to the ones generated in Lagos. Therefore, no state or part of Nigeria is superior to the other. All the nonsense about Abuja, 25%, you must have 25% in Abuja, is all because Peter Obi scored 25%. If he didn't score 25%, they won't be talking like that, including some of the people that we thought, look, were above board, were lawyers that deserve to be respected. The law is no part of Nigeria is superior to the other. Abuja is just like any Nigerian state. Section 299 of the Constitution says that clearly, that for the purpose of this Constitution, the Abuja shall be regarded as a state. Why are they not talking about Section 299 and simply telling us that you must win Abuja to be president? So if somebody wins all the 36 states and one of the presidential candidates happened to be a Gwari man from Abuja, and he got more than 90% of the vote, just the same way Obi was scoring 90-something% in the Southeast, and he denies others 25%. So are we now going to take that person, that Gwari man, who is a local, an indigenous of Abuja, are we now going to make him president because he's the only one who scored 25% in Abuja? I mean, these are very ridiculous arguments from lawyers of all people. So Obi has no choice. Right. Nobody will listen to his advice for Buhari to stay away from inauguration. The CJN will not stay away from his inauguration.
Right.
I mean, Datti has to just calm down and let the law be followed. The law says 180 days at the level of appeal court and a further 2 months. It's always been like that for almost 30 years now. So that's the way it is until the law is amended. As long as it's not been amended to say, okay, I personally would want this case decided quickly. I would want a situation in which only the Supreme Court handles the presidential election petitions, the way it is done in Kenya. I would want only the Supreme Court to handle it.
Right.
But even if you do that, the Supreme Court also needs time to deal decisively with those issues. That you still need time in a country like ours. You can't rush it. You simply can't rush it. Let's be commonsensical. You can't rush something at that level. You can't rush it.
Absolutely, BK.
You must take your time.
Absolutely.
Take your time to determine the winner.
Right.
Today it is Tinubu. Tomorrow it could be your own candidate. So people should be careful of what they want. Today is Tinubu. You want the trial to be rushed. I don't know why. Who told you that you are going to win? Tomorrow it could be your own candidate. And people will say, no, let us do it quickly. How will you feel?
Quite interesting. Well, I think you've actually spoken to the fact that, talking about pastors, you've actually spoken to the fact that Catholic Archbishop Emeritus John Cardinal Onayekon, also got knocks from eminent lawyers and APC stalwarts for, faulting the expected May 29th inauguration of the president-elect. You've actually spoken to, some of these facts. Let me take one or two comments before we change topic for today's issues. Fabian Akaise says, to think that Nigerians voted for Labour Party, that means that Datti would have overthrown Peter Obi if they were elected. Trying to hit the polity, Peter Obi lacks the political influence that Tinubu has. Fair God says, don't you think that Tinubu swearing in should be on hold for the fact that results were not transmitted as promised. I think you've also spoken to this issue as well.
They should go and prove that one in the tribunal. There's time.
Right.
The tribunal is there to decide these issues. If Tinubu cannot prove that he won the election, then he has to give way, or they should do a fresh election. I'm not opposed to that, but let the tribunal do its work. Don't stampede this to the tribunal, because the tribunal has a time allocated to it by our laws. 180 days. 180 days. So that I can thoroughly deal with all the issues, all the facts, examine the evidence, the avalanche of evidence against, placed before it. They know what they are talking about. If you see, I looked at some of the facts that they presented during Faleke versus Abelo and INEC. If you see hundreds of pages, and you need time to look at all these things, and that's just one matter, one state, because you must bring evidence from each of the 36 states of our country to show that you actually won the election.
Correct.
And we are talking about more than 176,000 polling units.
Polling units, yeah.
When people compare us to Kenya and all that, those are smaller countries than Nigeria. By far, smaller country, you compare us to Ghana. Ghana is just a little bigger than Lagos.
You know, a lot of people just regurgitate, things they read on social media, and when they hear people, when they speak with bias, they just feel, well, that's the way it should also operate in Nigeria. But I think Oluka Ayodele also agrees with you, saying that all the agents have copies of the documents. Uploading the copies is like sending fax. The faxed copy is as good as the hard copy in hands. The agents did not cry foul. So I think that's quite a plausible comment there. Ola Babalola says, Biko, we miss you, sir. Please, what do you say about a news broadcast analyst who threw a poor jab at you when I think we won't give such small fry prominence on our channel. So let's change tack because of our time. In spite of all the pleas for clemency from various quarters, including diplomatic contacts, the court gave what many have described as a harsh sentence to former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu, alongside his wife and a doctor. Do you agree with those who describe it as a test of Nigeria's diplomatic dexterity?
Well, I don't know. You see, I don't even think that the government of the UK will get involved in such a local matter. The way they reason is not the way we reason. When the facts are stacked against you, in their own country, nobody steps in to say, no, this is my person, he should not go to jail. In Nigeria, somebody steals 109 billion. He surrenders 44 billion out of 109. And we go to court without shame to say, oh, this person has returned 44 billion. And ultimately, we've seen cases when, for returning part of what they looted, the case will just be dispensed with. It will end there. Our law permits the Attorney General of the Federation to discontinue any criminal matter without answering questions from anyone. He is the most senior minister. He is the only minister that the president cannot delegate his position or delegate his job to anybody. He is the only minister that has to be educationally qualified for his position. We made the law in that way. Look, you can actually be a professor of history and become the Minister of Health. You can. But to be Attorney General of the Federation, you must be educationally qualified for the position. That means you have to be a lawyer. That is what makes his position, his job special. And he can discontinue any matter without even asking questions from the president or from anyone. And the president cannot, out of anger, delegate the functions of the Attorney General to anyone. I have to say this so that our viewers can know. Now, the way we handle dispensation of justice in our country is not the same way that it is done elsewhere. We've seen even in Israel, former heads of state jailed. In some other countries too. In Europe, we've seen former heads of state, somebody who became head of state, jailed. In our country, we are not going to jail head of state, a former head of state. No matter the evidence against him, we will come together and they will say, no, 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 you can't do this. Don't disgrace him. You too, you will soon leave that position. So I knew all along that all of those pleas will fall on deaf ears. Their own society doesn't run like that. Ekwerimadu's case was bad. One, in their society, they do not permit you selling your body parts in the way this has happened. And unfortunately for Ekweremadu, when he was not dealing with that boy directly, he was dealing with Dr. Obinna. And Dr. Obinna was said to have been given 4.5 million, but he gave the boy only 270,000. Then Ekweremadu kept lying that this boy was his wife's cousin. I mean, his daughter's cousin, which means that he was his nephew. But in all, when Ekwerimadu's phone was taken, his chats with the Dr. Obinna, the Nigerian doctor that worked like a go-between, in his chats, he never referred to the boy as his daughter Sonia's cousin. He kept referring to him as that guy. So the prosecutors reasoned that he was behaving like a big man who knew that he was getting involved in a crime and was trying to protect himself as much as possible. And the boy also claimed that they did not tell him the whole story about what they were bringing him to the UK to do. He claimed that they did not tell him. Whereas the law says, okay, if somebody is donating his organ, you have to tell him all that it entails, the risk involved, and all that. So that didn't happen. So they concluded that there was a hanky-panky and that they had a lot to hide. And when Ekweremadu, in all of the documents that he signed, he kept referring to the guy as his daughter Sonia's cousin. But when the facts were presented before him, he eventually apologized before the court. He admitted that he lied. Now, once you are in such a vulnerable situation, these people, they are not going to show mercy. They are not going to show mercy. Their society is not run like that. No matter what Nigeria says, they will still convict him. Look at what they did to James Ibori. They jailed James Ibori's wife. They jailed his lawyer. They jailed his girlfriend. Everyone connected to the matter. They linked everyone together, and I had everyone jailed. That is the way these people are. Once they can get a cast iron evidence against you, they will not show mercy. They can show mercy after you have served part of the sentence, part of the jail term. They could show mercy later on. But that they are going to say on account of pressure from Nigeria, no, they don't do that. This is a lesson to Nigerian leaders. We can build the best hospitals in the world in our country. Many years ago, Saudi princes used to come to UCH to receive Medicare. UCH was one of the best hospitals in the whole of the Commonwealth. The Saudi princes, they used to come here to be treated. The facts are there. Today, UCH is a shadow of his former self. His glory days are gone. What does it take us? What does it take people like Ekweremadu to build the best hospitals here? Even if we need expatriates to work on them for some time, train our own people to be able to manage the first-class equipment that will be put in those hospitals, what stops us from doing that? The boy, when the doctors suspecting hanky-panky declared that the boy was a mismatch, they didn't want to proceed with the procedure and declared that the boy was a mismatch. Obina, the doctor, was now looking for a way to send him back to Nigeria. That the boy had to escape. The boy had to escape because he claimed that they told him that he would get a job here in the UK or that he could go to school. He was a telephone accessories seller. Those people used to sell phone accessories inside the wheelbarrow. That's what he was doing in Lagos. So let's look at the lessons. I believe that clemency may come later. He may not spend the entire time. Clemency may, if Nigeria still pushes for this, what honestly, the deed has been done, and I pity their daughter, knowing that the parents tried their best to keep their daughter alive, and look, the daughter is not in jail, and mommy and daddy and their doctor are in jail. It's a very, very emotive issue for that girl.
Absolutely.
And I really feel for her. I really feel for her. I can imagine how I would feel if my dad had to go to jail in the desire to keep me alive. I would almost even take my own life. It's so terrible. So terrible. But lessons have been learned. Let's make our own society conducive. If Cuba can be so great in medicine, there's nothing stopping Nigeria from having such advancement. Many Nigerians go to Egypt for Medicare. It's a shame. Big Nigerians, they go to Egypt for Medicare. Whereas even Egypt cannot keep its own best doctors. Egypt is just a third world nation. 11,600 Egyptian doctors left Egypt between 2019 and 2022 for Europe, America, and the Middle East countries like Qatar, UAE, and the rest. So imagine us going to Egypt and Malaysia for Medicare. We have what it takes to build world-class medical facilities here in our country. But the priorities of our politicians, the priorities of our leaders are different. All they want to do is just steal all the money available as if they have 2 lifetimes to spend the money.
Right.
Just a bunch of greedy people.
Right, Biko, because of our time, very quickly, and I want you to respond to these in a very short response. It does appear that President Buhari's attendance at the coronation of King Charles III was marred by the sentencing of Senator Ekweremadu and his wife and doctor to prison. So the question on the lips of some is there any way out from this for the senator and his accomplices? Looking at the fact that Prince Charles III, King Charles rather, could, maybe grant him pardon, if that's possible.
People, prisoners are entitled to pardon. Especially when cases of this nature is not, this is not murder, something like that. It's not terrorism related. he could get pardon. But I'm saying that will be after some time, because they want, before they can even say you are qualified for pardon, for clemency, they will look at your conduct in prison. So that's why it's usually those who have spent some time within the four walls of the prison that their matters get reviewed and they allow them to go. I don't think at this stage that they can get that pardon. I don't think that will happen. And don't forget, these people have so much disrespect for us, especially given the way our leaders conduct themselves. They know that our leaders steal us blind here. And for that reason, they do not respect African leaders. So when an African leader falls into their pit in this manner, you can be sure that they will not show mercy. Well, I've been saying all along that these people will not show mercy. I'm not surprised. Obasanjo writing to a clerk of the court was a waste of time. They are not going to bother themselves about what Obasanjo is writing.
Oh, well, don't you think they too, they are just like pots we're calling kettle black, because most of these proceeds of corruption, all the monies are kept in some of their banks. Why do they keep the money when they know that it's proceeds of corruption in the first place?
Well, I know that they are culpable for some of the looting that is going on, but don't also forget, a lot of the money that you've used to build the second Niger Bridge, to build the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, came from Abacha loot. We have continued to collect money from Abacha loot based on their efforts. If they refuse to release it, what are you going to do? But look at what you've been able to do with Abacha loot. It shows that they too know that it is wrong. But if your leaders don't steal, if our leaders don't steal in the first place, no money will go to those offshore bank accounts in Switzerland, Jersey Islands. There are some countries where, you can keep such money without anything happening to you. But where Nigeria enters into an extradition treaty and some form of agreement, you are not going to get away with it. They will jail you. They will jail you for us. And when you finish your time, you come home. That's what they did for Ibori. Ibori actually went to Dubai. He was extradited to the UK, and they jailed him for us in the UK. When he finished serving his sentence, along with his girlfriend, his lawyer, and his wife, Koyo, they sent them back to Nigeria. So I want us to reform our habits, our attitude. Let's reform our attitude and not wait for the white man to lead the way, to set the pace for us. They don't loot the way we loot. They are not perfect too. But you can't get away in the UK or in the US with the kind of looting that happens here. We have to tell ourselves the truth. You can't. You can't get away. Bare-faced, in your face looting that we are doing as if nothing will happen. Nobody will do that over there, no matter who you are. The system will catch up with you. The system, the institutions are strong. Whoever you are, they will deal with you. And you go to jail. You go to jail. Some of Donald Trump's aides have already been jailed. And it too is not too big to go to jail. That's a fact. That's how to build a nation. A nation that allows a so-called accountant general to steal up to 109 billion, only to make a refund of 44 billion. That kind of country is a sick country. You cannot, a system that permits that to happen needs to be thoroughly overhauled. That system is not working for us. And people are dying of hunger. An individual will be stealing that level of money. And we don't know that
Right, Bikil. Well, I think we have actually reached the end of the program. That's our show for today's edition of Issues with JIDE. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses, as always. And thanks to you too. Right.
Thank you.
Right. So, and thanks to you to our audience for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm at Ibrahim, TVC News. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.